Okay, guys. So welcome to this global fintech discussion. We've got Zach from representing Tala and the work that they've done in Kenya. They got Bayer talking about some exciting things in Mongolia, and we've got Madhu here in Bangalore in India to talk about some amazing traction they've gotten with microlending starting in the student space. I'd like to start out just giving each of you a couple of minutes in terms of intros, maybe just talk a little bit about your company, your own background, but I'd like you to close so that we have a common platform here with a summary of your company in terms of where you are today.
Hey guys. So my name is Bayer. I am a Chief Operating Officer here at And Global, a fintech company providing microloans on mobile phones. So we started out in Mongolia as a test marketplace, and we have issued over 400,000 loans in last year because we launched in a year ago. An average loan size is about $80, but we can, lend up to $800 without requiring any collateral. So now we have tested our technology. We are expanding to Philippines and Myanmar as our next market.
So my name is Zach Marks, and I oversee new market expansion at Tala. We're a fintech company focused on expanding financial access, choice, and control for the underserved. And I frame it in that way because I think credit is really our key product, but it's just one piece in the financial needs of our users. We launched this in Kenya about 4 years ago, and we've now crossed about 1.5 million customers there, about 6 million loans in Kenya, and we are now taking this model globally. So we've launched in Tanzania, the Philippines, and Mexico, and we will shortly be expanding to India.
So I am Madhu, and I run a company by name Crazy Bee. So Crazy Bee started with a focus on digital lending, purely focused on the microloans for the student segment. And lately we even branched out with the other brand name called Credit Bee, where we would be basically lending microloans to the underserved in India. And we have done roughly about probably like 1 million loans in the span of like last 2 years. We started 2 years back. So I think the traction here in India is pretty good for these kind of loans. And we roughly do a ticket size of about like $50. The average ticket size on these loans would be about like $50.
So I just wanted to ask each of you your view on what is microlending today. While it may have started more in terms of those who are the neediest, somewhere in the middle or bottom of the pyramid, as you look at your product, you look at your markets, and Zach, maybe we'll start with you. Do you guys see this predominantly as something where there are folks who it is aimed more at the MFI segment, or is it also new to credit? And folks who don't probably have a credit score are going to be a bigger and bigger part of your market?
I guess if we just start with the user's needs instead of the institutions that serve them, just think about a short-term credit need. It's not limited only to a typical microfinance bottom of the pyramid customer. I have short-term cash needs. The difference is I get to use a credit card for those flexible needs, right? When I just need to buy something and I don't have the cash on me. The challenge with traditional microfinance is while it did expand access to formal credit for many people, it wasn't always the most flexible product it would serve, right? The traditional microfinance model is maybe a $1,000, $2,000 loan over 2 years, paid back in these rigid installments in cash, where you have to meet in person in a self-help or joint liability group. And that doesn't offer, say, the flexibility for an immediate $100 need that you just have that week. Right, you might have some instant working capital need for your business or some medical emergency you have to fund. And so that's really that sort of flexible use case which our product steps in and fills the role for.
Each of these three markets, Mongolia, India, and in Kenya, have what I would call a fairly different incumbent infrastructure. So you hear a lot about Zach in Kenya, where it's driven more by the telecom firms, the M-Pesa crowd, and M-Swahili and everybody else. So would love to hear from you guys as you built your first product and you took it to market. What did you see differently than what they saw, and how did that influence the design and use of your product?
So with India, there was quite a few challenges. So the immediate challenge was the internet penetration. The digital penetration within India. So thanks to some of the new operators like Jio, right? So Jio is a new telecom operator which is launched by the billionaire Ambanis in India. So when they launched it, they literally made the internet cost go down, or they offered internet services for free on the mobile phones. So that was one of the major boost or the catalyst for the digital lenders in general, I would say. So this is first thing. So the internet penetration compared to in last 2 years has gained a lot of ground within India, and especially with the students. And these guys are the ones who are the people who are going to try these products newly. They're hooked onto the mobile much more than a non-student segment or a working professional. The students are the ones who are more hooked onto the internet. They are the ones who kind of come and try all the new things on the mobile services. So this is part one. The part two is about the regulatory digitalization that happened in India, thanks to the government initiative in making the Aadhaar digitization. So here there were like a very complex situation in India that each individual had multiple ID cards, or the SSN number kind of a concept was kind of distributed across different ID cards within India. But recently the digitization of the Aadhaar has made it quite a good amount of ease in terms of accessing the KYC details, and ease in terms of identifying the person with respect to even his face match and stuff like that has become more accessible at this stage.
And onboarding. So Zach, maybe we can talk about that since you closed out the differences in Philippines and in Kenya. How does it really work for Tala at a fundamental level? How does the customer find you and vice versa in onboarding process?
Sure. So to date, the honest truth is that by far the most successful and efficient channels for us have been digital ones. We've invested a lot in building our expertise on targeted digital marketing, and so we're able to use channels like Facebook to efficiently and effectively target borrowers, which will be surprising when we talk to a lot of people in the market. They'll say, really, you're going to really be able to get street vendors on Facebook? They must not use it, or that'll be too expensive because you'll just get everyone and then you'll have to reject a ton of them, so your acquisition costs will go quite high. And that's really where the power of our data science and ability to underwrite a wide swath of the population really comes in.
So we have a little different story since we run the student segment and the cash lending business. Let me talk about we do both offline acquisition and online acquisition in India. So let me first talk about the offline acquisition. So for a student market, it is similar to a MFI market. For MFI, they would do this the GLG groups and the self-help group or SHG groups, where the women are made into groups within the villages, and then they have to go and market within the villages to acquire the customers. So that's a similar thing what works for students, because all the students are present in a campus. So if we are marketing inside the campus, probably none other than my student customer would see any kind of an offline marketing that would happen. So the larger difference here is a mass marketing versus a focused community-based marketing. So for the student, I think it is more like a community-based marketing what happens, and there the cost of acquisition, everything works way down, because whatever you spend to acquire a particular customer is something what is used to even acquire the entire community itself. The second thing about is, because of the community nature of the students, the word of mouth is gets a lot of traction as well. The one best thing what students have is to discover new thing that is happening and discuss about these new things with their friends. So with that, the word of mouth also makes a lot of difference here, and that basically gets our cost down a lot, even though the channel is offline. Now coming to the online acquisition, what we do for the non-student segment, of course, the digital marketing is one of the tool what most of the lenders use here. Having said that, it also depends on the early player with a lot of competitors. With a lot of competitors coming in to a particular segment, so what happens is the keyword cost increases and the cost of acquiring each of the customer also grows higher.
Yeah.
So the way to retain that is how much loyalties that you can build from your customer to stick to your app and then repeatedly use that particular app for a repeat loans, which makes a lot of sense in terms of getting down your cost. Probably on the first loan, probably you may lose money, but you need to really build up that stack of loans to ensure that your acquisition cost really goes down. Yeah.
Bayer, on the Mongolia side, are there any things that are significantly different than what we have?
Yeah, I think I would like to touch another point that is helping us to acquire like almost 30% of the newcomers. On top of digital channel, the digital channel is really, really effective and also cost effective, because in emerging countries, the cost of app download on Facebook, Google is like a fraction of what we could pay for the Western countries, right? So that's what we use majority. But there is another effective channel is referral. It's really effective way to ask your customers to invite their closest friends or family to use the app and then get rewarded for the new qualified users. So that's really working well, because we have this gamification called the bonus system. Whenever the customer invites their friends, they get points and they get to the next level of their loan, or they decrease the fee level, and then that's really incentivizing the existing customer base, which is also making them loyal, because now they're further along their gamification. They don't want to lose the app, because they have invested so much into the app. And they have invested so much into this level thing. So I think the referral is one thing that we really should pay attention and invest some technology and money as well.
That's terrific. How do you guys feel about risk management, and how do you think about that today? Because it seems to me that's something that keeps you up at night. Maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. So I guess the risk is there are various risks. What any kind of a digital lender should be worried about. So first could be an intrinsic risk. It totally depends on your risk models, what you have developed it. The second is extrinsic risks, which could do with the regulatory systems, which could do with any kind of the last time the microfinance industry was wiped out because of the communal violence which happens in India, or it could be any of the government or the political interference into the microfinance, which wiped out the entire microfinance from a particular province or the state called Andhra Pradesh, which happened in back in like some 2008 or 9 in India. So there are both intrinsic and the extrinsic risks that are involved for any kind of a lender. When we are speaking from even the digital angle, brings a lot of attention, because the things are quite transparent here, and they're the easiest targets for anyone to attack, right? So talking about the intrinsic risk, I think that is something which is the capability of the internal risk teams to develop their risk models, the policies, what they're writing it, the amount of data science investments that they do in terms of getting a lot of this alternate data, and the modeling happens way different. So the modeling would be separate for a new customer versus a repeat customer versus a very loyal customer. So the various models which comes in, I think that is something quite standardized in the lending industry. If you look at and take cues from the global players who are already successful. Coming to the extrinsic risk, I think the one thing about the micro lending shorter tenure loans are they are a little safer than the longer tenure loans, because your book kind of replenishes very fast. So if you are even anticipating any kind of larger risk, if your tenures are averaging at like a couple of months or so, your entire book is on a risk for just a couple of months and not like years, wherein you have to live with the extrinsic risk for very long. In that way, the short tenure on the micro lending also kind of fits into this kind of to mitigate this kind of a risk. But whenever somebody wants to play on a larger tenure, I think the extrinsic risk factors would be much a big factor to take care about it. Yes. Yeah.
So Zach, just building on that, for you guys, how do you, especially new to credit, low income, where a traditional CIBIL score in India or or a credit score database may not be valid, how do you ensure loan duplication? People becoming excessively leveraged. How does your credit policy as well as your algorithms, how do you address that issue of over leverage?
Sure, that's a great question, and I'm really glad Madhu brought up the microfinance crisis from India from 2010, because I think there are some folks who are looking at what's happening in markets like Kenya, where there are a lot of mobile lenders who are getting a lot of saturation, and you do have customers who might be taking multiple mobile loans with multiple mobile lenders. This is a project we've prioritized a lot internally on how do we prevent over-indebtedness among our borrowers. And so there are signals we've built into our app and our data science models to try to understand, has this person recently taken another loan from another mobile lender? In the same way that we can get access to their mobile data, there's often a data trail of other mobile loans. And so that's something that's sort of on the top of our minds. I'd say just a broader holistic point beyond just over-indebtedness is we're constantly thinking about how we can be responsible lenders. And for us, that means things about just being incredibly transparent about what our fees are, making them very simple of what a user is going to pay, and not, trying not to use too many complicated rates or percentages, since a lot of our customers just want to know, okay, I'm taking 100, I'm going to pay you back 105. I just want to know that. I don't need to know a ton of other stuff. And we have, I think there are other things that we can do to be responsible lenders in terms of just fair collections practices, always taking an empathetic approach and not a predatory or too punitive one.
Okay. So Bayer, if you had anything to add on that, that'd be good. But along with that, I really want to start with the whole collections issue. So it's one thing to lend, it's another thing to get it back. So maybe you can touch upon both, and we'll circle back with. I really enjoyed it. Fascinating discussion. Lots of good insights. Hopefully, you guys got some value, and I really believe the viewers definitely will. Thanks a lot.
Hey.